Okay, thanks everyone. We're going to call to order the Monday, July 1st meeting of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. We've got 11 members present, which is great. And we'll begin with our public comment period. We did not have anyone sign up in advance for public comment today. Is anyone out there in the audience wishing to make a public comment but did not make the sign-up sheet outside? I'm not seeing any hands, so not seeing any hands, I'm going to close the public comment period and we'll move on to our agenda. I have several items on consent here, and I'll run through the committee agenda item number as well as the legislation number. And if anything needs to come off of consent, just let me know and we'll pull it off for discussion, questions, deferrals, anything like that. All right, so first we've got committee item 1. This is RS 2024-569. Committee item 2, this is RS 2024-570. I apologize, I have a letter to defer on that. 570 is not on the proposed consent calendar. Committee item 3, this is RS 2024-571. Committee item 4, this is RS 2024-574. Committee item 5, this is RS 2024-575. Committee item 6, this is RS 2024-576. Committee item 7, this is RS 2024-577. Bills on second reading, we have committee item 9, this is substitute bill 2024-349. We have committee item 12, this is BL 2024-430. We have committee item 13, this is BL 2024-431. We have committee item 14, this is BL 2024-432. We have committee item 15, BL 2024-433. Committee item 16, BL 2024-434. Committee item 17, this is BL 2024-435. Committee item 18, BL 2024-436. Committee item 19, BL 2024-437. Committee item 20, BL 2024-438. Committee item 21, this is BL 2024-439. And committee item 22, this is BL 2024-440. I'm seeing a hand, Councilmember Evan Siegel.
Item 3, RS 2024-571.
Thank you. We will pull that off of consent. Any other, Councilmember Allen? You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it might be item 1, RS 2024-569.
569, we will pull that off of consent. Any other items need to come off for Councilmember Coopin? Give me 1 second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I believe item number 2 is off consent, but just wanted to confirm.
Yes, I initially read that, but then I saw a note that I had a letter from you, so I will, that's off consent.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else need to come off of the consent agenda? Okay, so I'm going to read the captions of the remaining items into the record, and then I will ask for a motion and a second on the consent agenda. So committee item 4, this is RS 2024-574 by Cap Porterfield, Stiles, and others. This approves a notice of land use restrictions and property assessment and warranty applicable to a portion of Shelby Park in connection with a stream bank restoration project. Committee item 5, this is RS 2024-575 by Porterfield, Parker, Welsh, and Bradford. This appropriates $50,000 through a grant contract buy-in between the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewerage Services and the Tennessee Environmental Council to provide trash and debris removal around Nashville's waterways. Committee item 6, this is RS 2024-576 by Porterfield, Parker, Welsh, and Bradford. This appropriates $59,565 through a grant contract by and between the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewerage Services and the Cumberland River Compact to provide trash and debris removal around Nashville's waterways. Committee item 7, this is RS 2024-577 by Coopin, Gamble, and Parker. This amends ordinance number BL 2023-1700 to authorize the Metropolitan Government to abandon public water main and sanitary sewer main for property located at 825 6th Avenue South, also known as Modera Sobro Phase 1. Committee item 9, this is substitute BL 2024-349 by Spain, Gamble, and Parker. This amends the Geographic Information System Street and Alley Centerline layer for the Metropolitan Government by renaming 4 disconnected segments of Old Harding Pike. Committee item 12, this is BL 2024-430 by Vo, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the naming of unnumbered alley right-of-way from Benton Avenue to Craighead Street as Coliseum Way. Committee item 13, this is BL 2024-431 by Coop and Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the abandonment of alley number 149 right-of-way and utility easements between President Ronald Reagan Way and 3rd Avenue and Peabody Street and Lee Avenue. Committee item 14, this is BL 2024-432 by, Vo, Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the abandonment of alley number 1827 right-of-way between Montrose Avenue and West Kirkwood Avenue. Committee item 15, this is BL 2024-433 by Toombs, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 103 Fern Avenue. Committee item 16, this is BL 2024-434 by Welsh, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public water mains and easement and to accept new public water main for property located at 563 Veritas Street. Committee item 17, this is BL 2024-435 by Huffman, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water main, public fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for property located at 2040 Hickory Hill Lane, also known as Park Haven Phase 3, Section 2. Committee item 18, this is BL 2024-436 by Huffman, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water mains, new public fire hydrant assemblies, and associated easements for property located at 2040 Hickory Hill Lane, also known as Park Haven Phase 3, Section 3. Committee item 19, this is BL 2024-437 by Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 9828 Split Log Road in Williamson County, also known as the Rosebrook Section 4B. Committee item 20, this is BL 2024-438 by Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 9828 Split Log Road in Williamson County, also known as the Rosebrook Section 6. Committee item 21, this is BL 2024-439 by Stiles, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for two properties located at Century Farm Circle Unnumbered and William Turner Parkway Unnumbered, also known as Century Farms J Road. And lastly, we have committee item 22, BL 2024-440 by Ellis, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, new public fire hydrant assemblies, new public sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at Murfreesboro Pike, Unnumbered, also known as Hamilton Center. All right, so that is all of the items on the proposed consent agenda. Having heard the captions, does anything need to come off in addition to the items that we've already removed? I'm seeing none, so could we get a motion on the consent agenda? All right, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, we have all 12 committee members present, so we recommend approval of the consent agenda items, 12 in favor, 0 against. And that takes us to our first item that was not on the consent agenda. This is resolution, committee item 1. This is resolution 2024-569 by Porterfield, Parker, and Welsh. This approves an application for a subrecipient grant from the Tennessee Technological University to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through NDOT for the Charging Tennessee Advancing Public Vehicle Fleet Electrification Project. Do we have a motion? Properly moved and seconded. Okay, is there any discussion? I see Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. I'm all for electrification and more charging stations. And I was just trying to get clarification. Is this simply a shuttle from parking over to downtown, or is this perhaps a revival of the downtown drive-around shuttle, which I would love to see come back?
Thank you. I see Mr. Purvis in the back. Mr. Purvis, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Matt Purvis. I'm the council liaison for the Department of Transportation. Our portion of the grant, because it's a multifaceted grant between ourselves and Tennessee Tech and a couple other, organizations. Our portion of the grant is to just buy new shuttles, the ones that Nashville Downtown Partnership currently operate. It's just to help electrify those and replace those.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Allen?
And then what happens to the old ones? Do they still operate?
Mr. Purvis?
I'm not sure. I can find that answer out for you, though.
Could you? Okay, I'd love to know if they could be repurposed to go to the airport, maybe. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion, questions, comments on 569? Okay, seeing none, so it's been properly moved and seconded. Any, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 12 in favor, 0 against. Next item that was not on consent is Committee Item 2. This is RS 2024-570 by Coupin, Porterfield, Parker, and Welsh. This accepts a donation from 601 Lafayette Owner LLC in the amount of $100,000 as a contribution toward infrastructure improvements toward the costs of construction of a nearby community pocket park. Do we have a motion on this? All right, properly moved and seconded, and we will go to the sponsor, Councilmember Coupin. Councilmember Coupin.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a motion to defer 2 meetings with a brief comment.
Absolutely.
Well, huge thank you to Councilwoman Evan Siegel, who was going through doing her diligence on the agenda and raised a question about the allocation of this money towards a park. And the park isn't technically not an existent park. And as we've kind of traced down the language here, there was some confusion as to the language and allocation. This money, to my understanding, is from a development project being allocated to infrastructure improvements in the area. But by saying the word park, it then invokes the Parks Department. And so would like some time to kind of just look into that and make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row for this project. So would like the 2 meetings to have that to be done.
Thank you, Councilmember. So it's a two meeting deferral, and I did say absolutely, but if we could get a proper second on that motion. All right, motion for a 2 meeting deferral has been moved and properly seconded. Any other discussion, questions about this? All right, all those in favor of a 2 meeting deferral, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? Okay, thank you. Recommend approval of a 2 meeting deferral. 12 in favor, 0 against. All right, next, that's not on consent, is Committee Item 3. This is RS 2024-571 by Johnston, Sepulveda, Gamble, and Parker. This approves Amendment 3 to an intergovernmental agreement between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and NDOT for intersection improvements on Nolensville Pike from McNally Drive to Natchez Court. Do we have a motion on this? Properly moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Councilmember Evan Siegel, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious, we're extending it out quite a bit, and I was just curious as to why.
Thank you. I see Mr. Purvis in the back again. Mr. Purvis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So when we're working with TDOT, essentially they have a maximum project extension of 2 years. When we extended the first time, or the last time, we didn't even get the full 2-year extension, and that period that we just finished was only to get us through the NEPA process, so not even towards most of design for the most part. So essentially, we always knew it was going to take this long. It's just we couldn't get the full length from the very beginning because of TDOT's policy to only extend by 2 years each time.
Thank you. Councilmember Evan Siegel.
Thank you. I guess I'm just curious, is January 31, 2027 what we actually think the completion date will be, or are we expecting another extension will be needed?
Mr. Purvis.
It is the hope and the estimation at this time that we will be done by then.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilmember? Okay, any other questions, comments, discussion on 571? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of 571, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 12 in favor, 0 against. Okay, moving on to bills on second reading. We have Committee Item 8. This is BL 2024-293 by Evans, Porterfield, Vo, and others. This amends Chapter 15.61 and Chapter 16.04 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to restrict fences in the floodway and floodplain and to require a fence permit for all fences to be constructed within Nashville and Davidson County. We have a letter to withdraw, is that correct, from the sponsor? So do we need a motion on that? We have a letter from the sponsor to withdraw. Could we get a committee member to please? sure, I can't sign you on, but I think a committee member can make the motion to withdraw. I don't think you need to sign on to the bill. So we have a motion. Do we need a second on a motion to withdraw? All right. Well, it's been properly seconded. So do we take a recommendation on, or do we take a vote on a recommendation to withdraw? Okay. So all those in favor of withdrawal, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? Okay. Thank you. Recommend withdrawal. 12 in favor, 0 against. Next item is Committee Item 10. This is BL 2024-426 by Kimbrough. This amends Section 15.64.140 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to the review of a grading permit and drainage plan. We don't have a sponsor present, so. A one meeting? Okay, so because we don't have a sponsor present, we can't really discuss it. So could we get a motion to defer one meeting from a committee member? All right, properly moved and seconded. All right. All those in favor of a one meeting deferral, please, discussion. See Councilmember Allen?
Thank you. I mean, we have some experts here who might answer questions. Does the fact that we're deferring mean we can't ask questions?
I would not think so.
Not related to the deferral? Okay, they're not. So we'll just invite them all back. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure to have folks from the water
Or
department
ask them
here.
to stick around and maybe we could chat with them shortly.
Sure. So we have a motion to defer one meeting before us. All those in favor of deferring one meeting, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, we recommend a one meeting deferral, 12 in favor, 0 against. Okay, committee item 11. This is BL 2024-427 by Parker Porterfield Gamble and others. This is a resolution adopting a transit improvement program for the metropolitan government, approving a surcharge for the program, and requesting the Davidson County Election Commission to call a countywide referendum election to be held on November 5th, 2024, regarding the levying of the surcharge on certain taxes to fund the program. Do we have a motion? All right, properly moved and seconded. Do we want to hear from the transit team? Do we want to jump right into committee discussion? I'm open to whatever the committee's desire is here. All right, let's hear from, we've got Michael Briggs and several others here in the room with us. I'll recognize Mr. Briggs. If you could just tell us a little bit about what this is, what it does, what's before us. Give me 1 second. And please introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Michael Briggs, Director of Transportation Planning in Mayor O'Connell's office. And what's before you today is a proposal to raise a half-cent sales tax surcharge to fund Choose How You Move, transportation improvement program. We had a presentation, was this April, I guess, that went into a lot of the details on it. Remember that there's 4 key areas that this is funding. So 86 miles of sidewalk, really focused on many of our busiest transit corridors. It's also improving signals, so 600 signalized intersections across the county that will be upgraded and connected into a traffic management center. And NDOT is opening that traffic management center this fall. The third area is with service. So lots of improvements there, including 24/7 service on our busiest routes, more expanded service across the county, including the addition of 12 transit centers, 4 express routes that are connected into 17 park and rides, and sets us up to connect regionally as our other counties are ready to act. And then the fourth area is with safety. So as you overlay all of these improvements across the county, we're able to upgrade a significant number of bus stops, providing shelter, addressing 35 intersections to be redesigned that are part of our high injury network, and adding additional complete street elements. It is paid through the half-cent sales tax surcharge that's proposed, and that would be dedicated towards the program completely. And that surcharge brings us in line with our surrounding counties in terms of their sales tax rate. The other thing that's unique about the surcharge is that when you, 60%, we estimate 60% of the surcharge, the sales tax being paid by visitors. So those that are commuting into the county, and then also visitors as part of tourism here. And so I'm happy to answer additional questions, but that's what's before you, is that it would then go to the Election Commission to then be put on the November 5th ballot.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to see if we have folks who have questions, comments, concerns. So I saw Councilmember Benedict. Anybody else want to get in the queue? Okay, Coupon. Anyone else? Thank you. Okay, we'll go first to Councilmember Benedict. Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to understand a little bit about the federal dollars that this allows us access to. What is that dollar amount? And if we don't do this, would we be able to have access to those dollars? And if not, kind of could explain a little bit around that, if I may, sir.
Thank you. I'll go to Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, happy to answer that. And I actually should have brought that up in my quick overview. So we anticipate $1.4 billion being leveraged through this program over the life of the program. So it begins to tap into the bipartisan infrastructure law and some of the transit grants that are available through that program. So small starts, new starts, capital investment grants are programs that we can then compete on. Currently, we do not have dedicated transportation funding. Of the top 50 cities in the U.S., we're one of 4 that does not have dedicated transit funding. So we're kind of at the bottom of our peer cities. And so it's really difficult now for us to compete with other cities such as Kansas City, Indianapolis, Oklahoma City to bring back that federal money.
And so I just want to make sure that the public's clear then. So that Infrastructure Act money is money that the federal government is giving away every year to other places, but it's our federal income tax dollars that are being used to fund that act. And so this is a great way for us to get our income tax that we give to the federal government back right here instead of it going to other places around the country. I just want to make sure that that's clear and understood, and that when we talk about leveraging those federal dollars, that is our money. And so let's get all of it that we can back. And with that, I just would reiterate, as a co-sponsor, I am supportive of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, I had Councilmember Coupon. Councilmember Coupon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleague for asking a couple of my questions, so checking those off the list. Really appreciate the time and effort put into this plan, and I know it's a multi-year plan, multi-year execution. What can we expect? Let's say this passes in November. What can we expect over the first year or two in change based on voting yes for this plan?
I'll go again to Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, so think service, technology improvements sooner, capital projects a bit later with the program, because that'll take some additional design and evaluation to execute. So things like expanding the span of service for some routes is possible within the first year. The program that helps low-income riders to be able to ride the bus for free is definitely something that is likely to happen in the first year. Also, We Go Link Zone, so where we subsidize an Uber ride to get you from the fixed route service to your home, we'll likely be able to expand those zones in the first year. The tax would not go into effect until February 1st of 2025, so there's a little bit of lag time, and then we begin working on procurement, seeking out grants during that time.
Thank you. What studies or what have we looked at from the carbon footprint and environmental impacts of this plan, or how this might benefit or be a cost on the environmental side of things?
Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, so we did not calculate specific benefits related to greenhouse gas emissions within the plan. We do know that the transportation sector within Davidson County makes up about 51% of our greenhouse gas emissions. So as people shift or we have some cars that are removed from the road, we would see some offset there. I think the thing we also have to remember is that the population continues to grow in Nashville and Davidson County and the region. And so as you begin to have available options, you can also think through that, more traffic is likely to be experienced on streets as well.
Thank you. One last question, if I can.
Councilmember, yes.
What can we as council members and what can members of the general public do to bring information like this to our community? I know you all have transit talk options, but what can we do if you could speak to how we can bring this to our communities?
Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, so we do have on Hub Nashville. So if you go to hub.nashville.gov, up in the left-hand corner, you can find out more information about the transit program. You can also go directly in and request a transit talk, and we'd be happy to come to any meeting with someone from either NDOT, WEGO, Mayor's Office staff to talk about the program. There's more resources that will be put on the website as well. So we have some council district information that needs to go up. There's a one-pager that's also translated into 5 different languages that will be available on the website. So we're happy to also address questions through the email. So transit@nashville.gov will link you to our team.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, next in the queue, I had Councilmember Cash. Is anybody else seeking? I see Councilmember Ellis. I'll put you in the queue. Anybody else? Councilmember, and was that Spain? Yes, thank you. Anybody else? Evan Siegel. I got Hill. Yes, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, great. Councilmember Cash, you're recognized. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of my questions got answered from the previous questions asked, but I do want to understand a little better. Is the revenue collected mainly going to go towards capital expenses and interest toward capital expenses, or is it also will it also impact, or could it also impact the operating budget? Like you mentioned, Michael, you mentioned new routes that just pay for the buses and the infrastructure, or could it also pay for drivers?
I'll go to Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, so there is an annual operating amount included in the program that's $111 million per year.
What percentage-wise, what is that? In terms of the revenue, the new revenue collection?
Yeah, I may have to call on someone in the back. So Amanda, are you able to help with that?
Give me one sec. You're recognized. If you could please introduce yourself.
Amanda Vandergrift, InfraStrategies. It's over 40%, so 43% of the expenses are assumed to be operating.
Thanks. What I wanted to know.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I have Councilmember Ellis. Councilmember Ellis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Briggs, for doing the presentation in my district as well. One question that came out of that was, if we don't get the federal dollars, what types of improvements can we anticipate in exchange for just the Davidson County taxpayer dollars?
Thank you. Mr. Briggs, would you like to answer that?
Yes. So if we do not approve this program, a lot of the projects and service improvements have been thought through and proposed for some time. So the program's based on a decade's worth of planning work that's included over 70 plans and over 60,000 pieces of input. So both NDOT and WEGO in the planning department and other metro departments have really relied upon those documents like Nashville Next, the community plans, major and collector street plan, the walk and bike plan, and In Motion to essentially set up their expansion of programs and services and set up infrastructure to meet our growing needs. What that would mean then if we don't approve the program is that a lot of these services and infrastructure take much longer to deliver. So a good example of this is WEGO is constructing the North Nashville Transit Center, the Rip Patton Center at Clarksville Pike and 26th Avenue. That is kind of come through their regular capital budget, but as the expansion of the system occurs over multiple years, the program will help them deliver more of transit centers quicker, whereas they would only have the capacity to undertake maybe one or two every few years.
Thank you. Just one follow-up. So what sort of, how will we be able to measure, or what sort of information will the administration or NDOT be able to pass over to the public or us as council members as far as gauging the improvements? How will we be able to relate that back to our?
Thank you, Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, that's a very good question because we do want this to be as transparent as possible. So I don't have a definitive answer on that, but just know that we are working through a framework as to what implementation would look like. It's very likely that the two advisory committees that met during the development of the program, so we had a technical advisory committee and a community advisory committee, that in some fashion that would reform or reshape to continue to advise and oversee the delivery of the program. I imagine there'll be dedicated websites set up that would continue, that would help show how we're progressing with the program, probably some key metrics that would also be reported out so that residents can understand what we're doing, where we're doing the improvements, and how the program's being delivered.
Thank you. And Councilmember, to your first question, as I've talked with folks about this proposal, one way that I've expressed it is, this is a lot of what's in this plan is stuff that we're working toward already, and it's the approval of the program is kind of a question of do we see these things in 5 years or do we see them in 15 years? And then that seems to help a lot of folks understand what the benefits might be of approving this. So.
That my point in asking the first question about the federal monies being qualified, as we saw earlier today, if people weren't paying attention, is that we may be on a different path, not, or to some of the improvements that our country faced over the last, couple of years, maybe clawed back by this next administration. And so if that happens, I still want to be able to assure, the folks in my district that their tax increase is going to be of benefit to them without the federal dollars. Understood.
Thank you. Okay, next in the queue, I had Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just, almost all of my questions were answered, so I just got one left. I wanted to address the sales tax increase of 0.5% from 9.25 to 9.75. All that does is brings us in line with virtually every county around Davidson because they have already increased to 9.75 because we haven't increased ours since, I think, the 80s. I just kind of wanted to say that out loud and kind of get that on the record and make sure that that is correct.
Thank you. I believe that is correct. Does Mr. Briggs, do you have anything to add to the question of the sales tax and the surrounding counties where they're at?
That's exactly correct. So all surrounding counties except Sumner have the 9.75% sales tax. I went back and looked, and Davidson County has not changed the sales tax since 1989.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Next, I had Councilmember Spain. Councilmember Spain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there are 40 members of this body, so I'm guessing there are at least 40 different opinions about what the priority of the projects in this plan should be. Is that prioritization, particularly when it comes to the capital projects, is that spelled out in the plan, or is there flexibility so that that can change over time given circumstances?
Thank you. I'll go to Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, yes, council member. The program has a conceptual schedule, and that conceptual schedule that's in the document really addresses the bigger scale projects and some of the program buckets. There is flexibility after the program is approved by voters in order to have additional discussion as to which projects come first. So some good examples is that like signals are likely some of those improvements undertaken in the first couple of years. If you have a developer that comes in and puts in a new signal as part of their development approval, then we have the opportunity to shift that signal work to a different location. Same thing would be with sidewalks. So some of the smaller elements like that have some flexibility in it. And then we would want to work through the advisory or oversight group to have a conversation as to what corridors are prioritized for some of the big infrastructure elements.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember, and thank you, Mr. Briggs. Last in the queue, I have Councilmember Evan Siegel. Does anybody else wish to get in the queue at this time to ask questions or discussion about this? Not seeing any, so I'll go to Councilmember Evan Siegel.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple quick things. Most was already asked. Most directly to something recently said, I just want to make sure everybody understands Davidson County hasn't raised our sales tax, but the state did. And so if people here in the early 2000s, sales tax went up in Davidson County, that was actually a state law change where we added a cent. Not all of us were around in Nashville 22 years ago, but I think a lot of us remember that. So I just two quick questions. One I get a lot, and then one that I think is sort of what I think of as the unlisted S. So that one would be stormwater. And this may be a question for somebody in the back, but I think it's important to understand the current amount of money that we call sidewalk money that's actually just stormwater. Because I think this plan also has huge benefits for stormwater. And so if NDOT could just talk a little bit about what percentage of cost of sidewalks tend to be stormwater and what benefit we see when we put in sidewalks, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay, so we had a request for NDOT to talk with us about the cost of sidewalk projects and how much of that is related to stormwater improvements. So if you could please introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, I am Brad Freeze with the Nashville Department of Transportation. So as an answer, that's a great question. We actually haven't factored that in with the cost estimates that are currently in there. So I believe it's 60% of that. And I have actually Justin Cole here is actually with NDOT as well, who's actually had a lot of insight, a lot of work on the sidewalk portions of it.
Ms. Cole.
Yeah, and that was, the costing was based on kind of the all-in cost of many of our recent projects. And so, a large majority of those are incorporating a lot of stormwater improvements, new stormwater infrastructure in conjunction with the sidewalk. So that's part of the costing.
So the number was about 60% of sidewalk expenditures is related to stormwater?
That is correct.
Thank you. Councilmember, any follow-up on that question?
Yeah, so what's the total sidewalk number in the plan?
Mr. Briggs, if you could.
Look that one up.
Are you talking about the miles, or are you talking about the specific cost? Or
I believe cost is the,
okay,
or miles. Councilmember, you're
Yeah.
welcome to clarify.
Yeah, I think just when we ran the numbers and came up with what is the numbers in the ordinance, how much that's.
Thank you.
Because that's a model, not today's cost.
give me one moment because I'm making sure. The number that I'm finding is bundled together with signals and safety. So hold on.
I can always ask again in budget too, if easier.
If that's acceptable, then maybe we'll ask that question in budget and they'll have the exact number.
Yeah,
then.
if you can give us a moment, we can
Yeah, that's
figure that
fine.
out.
And then the question I just sort of get a lot is, it's a little awkward the way things are set up because Greenways is in parks. And so Greenways is not a part of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, but certainly the Greenways Network works with our bike lanes and our sidewalks to form a bike ped network. And I know we looked at a bunch of plans and I get questions about sort of how this ties into the Greenway plan, since it's not actually dollars for Greenways. And if we could just hear a little bit about that, I think that'd be helpful.
Mr. Briggs, would you like to take that?
Yeah, happy to. And I actually just found the number for you on the sidewalk. So that's 372 million in capital costs. Related to parks and greenways. So there's definitely a relationship there where we would want to open up access to parks via other modes of transportation and greenway access. So we have mapped out some of the greenway trailheads with greenways and park staff to look at how these interrelate. And so right now, there's not anything specific in the Choose How You Move program that is specifically talking about parks connections, but it would open up access in some areas to parks via bus.
Thanks. I think that's helpful. And I think as we think about sidewalks and bike lanes, not intentionally making them work with greenways, I think misses some opportunities. So I'm glad that y'all are looking at that. And if you don't mind, Chair, I just ran the numbers. That's $223.2 million towards stormwater improvements in this plan.
Thank you. That's excellent context. Okay, any other? I turned myself off there. Any other questions, discussions, comments about BL 2024-427? Okay, I'm seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 12 in favor, 0 against. All right, is that everything, Ms. Darby? Okay, well, that concludes the business of the committee. We're a little bit over time here, so I won't have any chair update or departmental reports here. So with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.